Have you ever found yourself stuck in a relationship that feels impossible to leave even when it's hurting you? This is the painful reality of a trauma bond, an emotional connection that binds you to your abuser in ways that seem confusing but are deeply rooted in manipulation and fear. Let's dive into what a trauma bond really is and how it can trap you, even when you know it's not love. A trauma bond is a complex and destructive emotional attachment that forms in toxic and abusive relationships. It occurs when an abuser alternates between emotional or physical harm and moments of kindness or love, creating a dangerous push-pull dynamic. This manipulation makes the victim feel deeply attached to their abuser, confusing this bond with love. Unlike healthy relationships built on mutual respect, a trauma bond is rooted in fear, dependency, and control. It often develops in people with a history of abuse, neglect, or emotional codependency. Over time, the victim may become so enmeshed in this cycle that they prioritize the abuser's needs over their own well-being. The idea of leaving can become emotionally overwhelming as the victim feels guilt or shame, even in the face of continued harm. Recognizing a trauma bond is the first step toward breaking free and healing from its grip. Signs of a trauma bond. Recognizing a trauma bond is critical for anyone who finds themselves in a toxic or abusive relationship. Here are some signs to look out for. Number 1. They are outwardly charming. At the beginning of the relationship, things may seem perfect. The person you're with may appear sweet, charming, and caring. They may go out of their way to make you feel special, building a sense of trust and attachment. But once the bond is formed, their true nature begins to show. You may start to notice small inconsistencies in their behavior, but they might sweep it under the rug, telling you it's nothing or that they've been stressed. In truth, a person who's emotionally manipulative can mask their true intentions, making it difficult to spot the red flags early on. Toxic relationships don't start out with abuse. It often comes in waves, making it harder to walk away. You may confuse their charm with real affection, but remember, that charm is often a tactic to reel you in. The abuser will likely oscillate between kindness and cruelty, keeping you on edge and unsure of what's coming next. This unpredictability becomes addictive, as the small gestures of affection become something you desperately crave, reinforcing the bond. 2. They are emotionally unpredictable. Emotional manipulation is one of the primary ways a trauma bond takes hold. After a volatile argument or abusive incident, your abuser might suddenly switch gears and shower you with affection, apologies, and promises to change. This unpredictability is disorienting, making you second-guess any thoughts of leaving. The cycle of abuse, followed by apologies and a temporary sense of normalcy, reinforces the bond. You might start to believe that their behavior will improve or that you're somehow responsible for the abuse. You could even start feeling empathy for them, thinking they only act out due to personal stress or difficult circumstances. This emotional unpredictability fuels the trauma bond, as you're never sure if they truly love you or if they're only acting out of guilt or fear. 3. They tend to take their problems out on you. Another hallmark of trauma bonding is how the abuser often takes out their frustrations on you. Think back to the last time something went wrong for them. Did they lash out at you, blaming you for their problems or taking their anger out on you, even though you had nothing to do with it? If they often turn to you as a punching bag, mentally, emotionally, or even physically, that's a huge red flag. Rather than confronting their own issues, the abuser may project their feelings onto you, leaving you to bear the emotional burden. Over time, this starts to wear you down. You may feel like you're the one responsible for making things better, but in reality, their emotional volatility is a tactic to control and subjugate you. 4. They isolate you from your loved ones. Another sign of a trauma bond is the deliberate attempt by the abuser to isolate you from your friends, family, and support system. This might start with small comments like, "Do you really need to spend time with them?" or "Why do they always seem to come first?" This behavior can escalate into full-blown jealousy and control, where the abuser will actively discourage you from spending time with anyone else. They might guilt-trip you into choosing them over friends or family, or accuse you of being unfaithful or disloyal when you seek outside support, even though they are the source of your distress. 5. You deny or minimize their abusive behavior. One of the most dangerous aspects of a trauma bond is how the victim begins to deny or minimize the abuse. When friends or family point out that something is wrong, you might rationalize the behavior. It's not that bad, you might say. They were just stressed out, or it wasn't their fault. When you start making excuses for them, you're contributing to the cycle of trauma bonding. You might even tell yourself that things aren't really as bad as they seem, or that it's just a one-time occurrence. Minimizing or excusing the abusive behavior can be a way of coping with the cognitive dissonance. 6. You constantly make excuses for them. This behavior goes hand in hand with minimizing the abuse. Even after you've acknowledged acknowledge the problem, you may still try to justify their actions. If your friends or family express concern, you might feel the urge to defend your abuser. They didn't mean it, or they're just going through a tough time, or common excuses victims use to shield their abuser from the truth. This constant defense of their behavior, even in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary, is another clear sign of a trauma bond. If you feel like you're constantly making excuses for your partner's mistreatment, it's essential to recognize that this is a sign of emotional manipulation. 7. You're becoming more emotionally numb. As a result of the ongoing emotional strain, you may start to feel emotionally numb. This emotional detachment is a survival mechanism. If you're constantly exposed to pain, fear, and emotional turmoil, your brain may shut down in an attempt to protect you. You may stop feeling anything altogether, becoming detached and distant. Your joy, enthusiasm, and energy begin to fade as your emotional defenses go up. You might find that you're less expressive or less engaged with the things that used to excite you. The person you're bonded to might not even notice this shift, as they're too focused on their control over you. 8. You're hiding aspects of your relationship from others. Finally, one of the clearest signs of being in a trauma bond is when you start hiding the truth about your relationship from others. Are you minimizing the abuse when talking to friends or family? Do you actively avoid discussing your relationship in public or even with close friends? Are you defensive when anyone suggests that your relationship is unhealthy? If you find yourself hiding what's really happening in your relationship, it's a sign that you may be trapped in a trauma bond. Loyalty to an abuser can cloud your judgment, making you protect them even when they're doing you harm. This defense of the abuser might also come from the fear of what will happen if you let others intervene. But the truth is, you deserve better. You need to be able to share the truth of your relationship with others in order to heal. Breaking free from a trauma bond starts with recognizing that it exists, which can be painful, but it's essential for healing. Seeking professional help, such as therapy, is crucial to navigating the emotional complexities of trauma bonding. Support from trusted friends, family, or support groups is vital in breaking the cycle. If you or someone you know is in a trauma bond, reaching out to authorities or professionals is a necessary step toward reclaiming your life. You deserve relationships built on love, trust, and respect. Don't let fear or guilt trap you. Help is available, and you are not alone. Wow, did that hit close to home? If you or someone you know is struggling with a trauma bond, it's time to break free and take back control. Let's continue this journey toward healing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an important topic. Got thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments below. Let's talk it out.